Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of GMAT Success Talks. Today we're talking about Roshan's incredible GMAT journey, a jump from 605 to 695 in just 1 month. What makes the story so inspiring is not just the score boost, but the transformation behind it. From improving across all sections to mastering daily drills, mindset, and precision. Stay tuned as we discover how he made this remarkable comeback happen. So, Roshan, could you quickly please introduce yourself to our audience?
All right. I graduated from University of Nottingham, Malaysia. I'm just going very strictly professional here. So I did my engineering in Malaysia, in University of Nottingham, and after that, since then, I've been involved in my family business, and it's been almost 8 to 9 years since I've been involved, and I thought, okay, I was hitting the ceiling somewhere, I was getting stuck. I wanted to, move move forward in a different way, explore, and so my MBA journey started thereafter, and hence GMAT, and that's why I believe I'm here with you.
Awesome, awesome. All right, okay, so let's get right into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, your verbal was from verbal 79 to 84, which is
Yeah.
a 54th percentile to a 93rd percentile, which is great. I mean,
Yeah.
kudos, that was a great jump. So, what was your process for the first attempt in your verbal versus the second attempt in your verbal?
Okay, so my process in GMAT, I have to start with the process of how I started GMAT to answer that question.
Mhm.
So initially, I started with a reputed platform with online course, self-paced online courses. So I tried exhausting that, and for Quant, it was to an extent very helpful. Verbal, I was not trying to grip. I was not. I did not understand where I was going wrong, and I thought, okay, maybe in the exam I'll sort it out somewhere, blind with just hope and all that. So I went in and I suffered very bad, and so it was very confusing for me as to how to approach, how to go next, because I've met many people who are stuck in verbal, and I've heard their voices, because in quants you're wrong if you're wrong, because where you've divided wrong, where you've subtracted wrong, where you've not. So but in verbal it's so hard to figure out how you're going wrong. And after that I met somebody, and it was GMAT Wiz, and I got tutored by them. And after that I found my way in as to how to approach verbal questions. To be very honest, till the exam I was nervous, yeah.
Mhm.
But my second mock showed kind of improvement. I attempted only 2 mocks, by the way, throughout this journey, and the second official mock gave me some kind of confidence as to maybe how to. It gave me confidence that I'll be getting a good score in the exam, and that's what drove me.
Mhm.
And so the approach was very simple. My reading was, the way I read the question was very wrong, because the whole point of the examination, I believe, is to put you under stress with the time limit. And that time limit works a lot in your mind when you see the timer running, and then it's very different. The nerves are very different during an examination. And in
Mhm.
verbal, what we do as students, but I've seen many people, and especially me, is that I started reading too fast and trying to get over it as soon as possible so that I'll have time to finish the entire examination. And that's where I approached questions with, I thought I understood, because I generally considered me to be good in reading and understanding. But GMAT is a different game. There is a way you have to read the question, and it's not like you just, that's not going to get you through. It's not basic reading comprehension that we have in our schools. It's very
Mhm.
different. Here it is more logic than more English that you've been tested for logical understanding and reasoning, rather than just able to comprehend and vomit out the answer. So it's very different. So, and that's how I started. And if I can go further, if you allow me to.
Of
So
course.
yeah, so one thing, I was stuck in my first attempt, and when I saw GMAT club videos and many other videos, is people talk about pre-thinking. And I was always I had a very different idea of what pre-thinking was. I thought that pre-thinking is, I didn't know what pre-thinking is, to be very honest. And
Mhm.
I didn't understand how can you pre-think a correct answer, because you get many answers and it's simply impossible. There could be there could be anything that could be right, and how can you actually think out the correct answer even before seeing the choices? So I didn't
Mhm.
believe in that. But then, after my experience with the GMAT Wiz team and everybody, I understood that pre-thinking is not what we think. I'm sure many people like me are watching this video, will watch this video, and I have to tell them that pre-thinking is, in my view, not what we think. Pre-thinking is actually a way to figure out the wrong answers out of the options given. So
Mhm.
you think out, you just you fix the scope, you fix the conclusion in your head strongly, and you just imagine what could be the right answers. And then when you see a wrong answer, you know straight away it's wrong. So you eliminate and you move on. So I just want to communicate to others who are watching this video about what pre-thinking, how it helps you actually. So you communicate, you actually, it helps you to eliminate the wrong answer, because you think of all the right answers possible, and then in that process you deeply etch the conclusion in your brain, and you figure out the wrong answers easily. So that is what was a game changer for me. So actually speaking, pre-thinking and the way I read, slowly reading, giving more time to reading than going through the choices, that helped me scale up my score in Bobby. Yeah.
All right. So apart from the two that you already mentioned, are there any other specific changes that you made in your verbal preparation, maybe in critical reasoning or in reading comprehension, that kind of helped you achieve your improved score in the second attempt?
Okay. So, uh, so the most important changes were what I told you already. The way I read, mindful reading, very slow reading, breaking it up and going, and of course fixing the scope or the conclusion, and then thinking of all the right answers. So these were the main. Other than that, what I did is I went through official guide, questions like verbal questions, just to feel build confidence. And initially I was going wrong, but then slowly you get it right. But these were the two standout things that I did, and it changed completely. There's I can't think of anything else that was as significant.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd stick with these two as the top of the list. I think these two are like indispensable.
Got
Yeah.
it. Got it. And so what do you could you identify probably a few mistakes that you made and think that maybe a lot of other test takers also make in the GMAT test, that you may want to highlight for our audience so that they can avoid those certain mistakes?
So before going into the technical aspects, I'd advise aspirants who are writing this GMAT exam, given that it's also a costly affair. I'd say that, say, you put the process right. Like, you try to solve the problem in about the exam and don't worry about the result, because once you start putting too much focus on the result, and not just for GMAT, any personal or professional problem that you come across, don't just see if you're solving the problem, contributing to solving the problem every day, and don't worry about the result of the exam. Because honestly, I was not expecting more than 655. I was like, 655 is going to be my ceiling. I'm not going to cross that. That's what I thought. And I didn't care about the result. But every day I gave 2.5 hours. That's all I gave. I didn't do for 12 hours of marathon or 10 hours of all that. I can't do that because I don't have much time. So I put 2.5 hours in the morning every day. And that happened consistently. There's no, even Sundays it used to happen mostly. So there was, and I'd stick to 2.5 hours. It's not like Sunday is my free time and I go for 7 8. I didn't do that, but I was consistent. So, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't care about the result. I didn't care about it. So first thing I'd say is manage your nerves, because you may be an expert, subject expert, but then the psychological game in the exam is very difficult. So detach yourself from the result. The result come what may be, don't worry about it. Just keep the process going on. That's all. And apart from that, I'd say practice. Uh, Practice is the right way to do, and get a guidance if possible. Know what you're going wrong, how you're going wrong. If it's possible, online forums or YouTube videos. You just have to course correct yourself always. Course correction is the key. So that's about it. Apart from that, I think there's enough, help on the internet. If you can be any, if you have any specific questions, I can answer of how to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right. So, are there any specific kind of resources that you used to ace your verbal to get to a better score?
Okay.
What exactly did you do, like on a daily basis? Like you said, there's those 2.5 hours that you keep aside every day.
Yeah.
What would you exactly do in that?
So my 2.5 hours, I'd start with verbal, very simply because I was weak, very weak in it. Achilles heel. It was my Achilles heel, and I was
Mm-hmm.
actually surprised that it was my Achilles heel. I always thought I was good at communication and writing and all that, and I was very surprised. And that bothers you even more because you think something is your strength, and then that's the spoiler in the party. So so every day I started with verbal, and I used to solve official guide questions, 10 questions for critical reasoning, and like two RC, three RC questions. That's all I used to do. I did that, and I spent more time as to why is my answer right if it's right, and why is it wrong if it's wrong, and just mulling over it and trying to get the process right, and seeing the time limit. So that takes a lot of time, and the rest I get about 1 hour. It goes in quants, especially conceptual, filling conceptual gaps. So I see verbal. I would again stick to this. Get your approach right, how to read the question, and pre-thinking the right answer so that you can eliminate the wrong ones. That's all. That was the only thing I was trying to develop, that habit, and then till it becomes your, like, subconsciously you start doing it. You start that, you start a question with that algorithm in your head. So that was the whole idea. Yeah, so
All
that's
right.
that's how I used to spend those 2.5 hours. I won't solve a lot of questions in verbal. Verbal, my questions are very limited, but in quants, I used to do a lot of questions. Verbal was more trying to etch the algorithm in my head as to, if I see a question, how do I approach it? If it's a strength and weaken, how do I approach it? If it's some other kind, bold phase or reason, how do I approach it? So that flowchart, to you put it in your head, it took some practice. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's it.
All right. So you mentioned that you only gave 2 mocks, right? Um, so were you kind of worried that on one hand, I know that I want to be calm and I want to take the verbal questions a little slow so that I don't rush into reading and I don't get things wrong. But did you also, on the other hand, worry that I may sort of run out of time and I may not have enough time to answer all my questions? So did you come up with some sort of strategy in your head that, okay, this is how I'm going to tackle uh, the situation in the actual exam?
Yeah, but basically time management in verbal
Correct.
is
Yeah.
yeah. so
Yeah.
so so what I did was, first time, again, I told you I was stuck to the clock, and I was
Yes.
just wondering if I'm going to. This time
Yes.
I set a very small goal in verbal. Like, I don't want massive improvements. I'll just try and, I won't see the clock, and I'll just do what I did every morning, the first hour. So that was the whole idea. Like, I'm just going to read the question, and it happened like that. So first question, there was anxiety. There was definitely anxiety because it was very hard RC, and it was a long RC and hard RC. There was anxiety, but
Mm-hmm.
and then, but again, I got into that mode. I detached myself from the result, and you know, I just went. The time management was basically because I practiced so much. I did not find it very hard to manage time. I said the first 16 questions I'm going to give my best. The last few, okay, fine, if I make mistakes, because you can't answer. At least I can't answer all 23 of them. It's very hard to completely, for me. I know my capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So you see, the algorithm is the first 18 are very important. So I said, okay, let's give importance to the first 18. Let's follow our algorithm, and your speed develops as you practice slowly. So then, see, again, you follow those two rules. You read slowly, give 1 minute to the question, and maybe 30 seconds to the choices. I used to do the opposite. My first attempt, I used to give 30 seconds to reading the question, the stem, and 1 minute in the options. And I used to read the options thrice, because again, I didn't know which was the right answer. So you do the other way around. I just switched the time taken. I took 1 minute, 1.5 minutes, depending on the difficulty, on the stem, and then I took time for this. So first 16, 15, I used to give my everything. After that, I used to see the time, see the difficulty, and just skip or maybe answers. Obviously, you can't skip, so you mark something and you move on. So that was the approach. Yeah.
Interesting, interesting. All right, okay. So let's move to the quant section.
Okay.
You improved from 81 to an 86, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like we all know already, that you only gave two marks. So, what was your entire strategy? You have talked about like mulling over your concepts first and keeping your concepts stronger than kind of just finishing up questions and giving a mock. So like take our audience through your exact strategy for quants.
Okay. Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
So for quants, as I told you, I first enrolled in a very reputed, very famous course on the
Hmm.
internet, and I exhausted their syllabus. Like I exhausted their questions, their practice questions, their practice tests, and everything. And I gave my first attempt. And then I
Hmm.
realized there are still conceptual gaps in my studies. Basically, felt that there were some topics that were not covered there at all. And that's when I understood quant was always my strength. I was very good in math. So the only thing that was missing there is that conceptual gap. So in quant, I think you have to be 100% ready if you want to good score. You have to be you have to be 100% aware of what questions are going to come. Like you can't leave out one or two chapters, one or two topics. Like maybe some people tend to leave probability or permutations or whatever you have, inequalities, absolute values. These are a little challenging topics according to me. Like we've done very little of that in school. So that kind of topics you tend to leave out, miss out. But then I in quants, if you don't do that, because even if a score drops even by 1 mark, your percentile drastically falls. So getting 86 and 88 is completely different in quant. Even one question wrong out of 21 will get your percentile down. So you have to make sure that you know everything so that you get a good score. So first foremost for me, in my first attempt, I had a lot of conceptual gap. Second, even though concepts that I was thorough with, I was using very time consuming techniques. So
Got
quant
it.
is basically two things. You finish the concepts and you practice efficiency. So if you do both of this, 100% you can aim for 90. I was aiming for 90, but I think I lacked a little practice in few topics like ratios and everything, and exactly those were the topics I made mistakes in. So it was not surprising, and I didn't regret also. Those I did not put time there, and I had to face the consequence. So it's very simple. Quant is very straightforward. You complete the concepts, finish the concepts. So GMAT was helped me there as well. Like the concepts that I missed out on the first course, they comprehensively had covered all that. And the team of GMAT was also helped me to uh, you know fasten up my methods, like time saving methods basically. So even for the concepts, I was very thorough with, for example, mixtures, allegations, compound interests, rather than you go for the direct formula. If you see, yeah, formulae in compound interests are very complex and time consuming, so you have to have some kind of time saving techniques there to get it done fast, because they're always straightforward. It's not very hard, compound interest and simple interest. You just have to solve it fast, that's it, so that you spend time on the difficult ones. So that way it was very helpful. I think I filled my conceptual gaps there. And every day I used to practice at least 20-30 questions minimum. Sometimes it went up to 80, 60. In those 2.5 hours you can solve. I used to solve. Sometimes I just gave very little time to verbal, and then I focused for quants. And maybe some days it was like 2.5 hours was just quants. So it was like that. So but minimum 30-35 questions for sure. And also there's a structured approach to my quant preparation. I'd like to share it with others as well. I don't know, maybe try it this way, you'll get more confidence. So I divided. It's what the Viz also, GMAT Viz also divides. It's the same way I divided mine into number properties, algebra, and word problems. So you think once you finish every section properly, thoroughly, and you do sectional test in that. Anyways, in any platform, there are many platforms. Even GMAT Club, you have questions. So You finish questions on number properties and then get to algebra and then get to word problems. So when you
Mm-hmm.
divide, compartmentalize your preparation, you know where you are. And that gives you confidence. You say, this topic I'm done, this topic I'm done. You feel more confident. So I'd say compartmentalize and try and finish thoroughly. Fill the conceptual gaps. It's not very time consuming. You have to just put in, the right direction. You put in time, you can fill the concepts. But don't I would advise to not go to a GMAT exam without filling your concepts in quants, because in verbal, okay, there's no formula or something. There's no like concept. It's a single important technique there. But I think in quant, you have to know what is probability, what is permutation, when you see the order, when you don't see the order. You have to know that. Otherwise, there's no point. So fill in your conceptual gap as soon as possible, and then quant is very simple to get good marks in, because you know what's going to come. You're very ready, and you know 2 plus 2 is 4. You know where you're going wrong as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right. And any time management tricks that you made in your head or you saved from looking at all these resources?
In quants, there were time management tricks, like not for the ones that I was see. Probability, permutation, combination were not very natural to me. They were quite new, so I did
Mm-hmm.
not try and experiment there. But the ones you know properly, for example, most of us, we know ratios, this interest, simple interest, compound interest. We understand that because we face it in everyday, on a daily basis. We see that. So for all that, you have the GMAT Wiz team helped me with very faster techniques. So
Mm-hmm.
I used that, and so I'd advise this, that once you're conceptually clear with something for 100%, and then you go for time saving techniques there. So that's how I save time. So my 20, I in my first mock, I did not have time for the entire uh, question set. I think I missed out 2 3 questions. I just randomly answered, but this time I had enough time to finish the test, come back and review and change 3 answers as well, and all three were correct. So I that was very helpful. So you have to save time, but before that, prerequisite, finish your concepts. Otherwise, there's no point. If you don't know what that is, then there's no point in saving time, right? Yeah,
Awesome. So basically, grilling your concepts before you get into
yeah,
solving questions back to back and working on your speed and tricks. Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Okay. So now let's get into the data insights section of the GMAT test. Um, I think you mentioned that most of your mistakes in the data insights were due to poor reading, and improving verbal also helped in kind of lifting your data insights score. So, what was your approach? How did you improve from your 80 to your 84 in the second attempt?
So data sufficiency was something. See, it was very natural to me. Uh, Whenever I get time, although I'm an engineering student, I do a lot of economics just by myself. I just read theories and graphs, and I do that. It was my. It's just I'm very interested in, and that helped me in the I. So it was very natural to me, reading tables, reading graphs, uh, the logic and everything. One, I was very good in conceptually. I was very clear in quants. Once you're conceptually very clear in quants, data sufficiency questions, you can just pass through them easily. You can identify the tricks easily with practice, of course. You can identify them. So I did data sufficiency quant questions with my quant practice. So it was not something separate. Graphs and all, I did not practice anything. I just saw how the questions are on GMAT Club. I saw the type of questions asked, and that's how I solved. And as you said, in the first attempt, I got everything right. All those were wrong, were verbal related. Two-part analysis, wrong, verbal, because verbal. Everything was, anything verbal was wrong. So fixing verbal, it reflects, it reflected in my DI score as well. And even in my second attempt, the one question I got wrong was data sufficiency, non-numerical, verbal. So data sufficiency was in verbal. So that was a very different combination. I've not seen that combo, earlier, and I got that wrong. But it was very new to me, and so I got that wrong. But again, if you get your verbal right, you will definitely, that will reflect your in your DI. And if you're strong in your quant, DI is nothing but the amalgam of the verbal and quants, and it's just basic logic. And I had time to finish all the questions, so that was great. Many people told they didn't have time. Many people who I spoke to shared with me that you don't get time, but I had enough time to finish everything, and I still got few wrong. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Awesome. So, okay, from our discussion so far, it's very clear that daily consistent practice has kind of been the hallmark of your preparation. Yeah. While a lot of other test takers do rely heavily on mocks, you only took two during your whole preparation, and your emphasis was on daily practice. And you kind of also took us through a little with how what your daily practice session would look like, what your daily routine was. Are there any specific um, tips that you may want to give our audience that you may have missed out so far on what you used to do daily? Was there a specific time that you would study, or you would kind of just take out whatever, whenever, like throughout the day, whenever you have those 2.5 hours window, you would take that out?
I wake up very early in the morning because only then I don't have my phone ringing or the noise in my house. So I find time like that too. Otherwise, also I get time, but there is some kind of distraction always. So I do it in the mornings. With
Mm-hmm.
respect to mocks, I also like to point out, see, if you have time for mocks, well and good, great, because mocks help you correct your course. Your course correction, you need mock. But I am a, I would say, it's hard admitting it, but I'm a little impatient as a human being. I can't sit 2.5 hours in front of the computer screen unless I'm anxious, like in the test center. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, a mock was very hard to go process mind in my mind. 2.5 hours I sit in the front of the computer and solve. But people who do it get phenomenal scores because they see their course. You can correct your course. So I'd always advise you on mock. My approach was different because as I said, I kind of impatient sometimes with respect to all that. So I'd advise on mocks, and my daily routine was this. I used to keep a log of what topics are left, how good I'm in each topic, what I need to finish, what I'm going to do tomorrow, and all the things that I write what plan for tomorrow are doable things. It's not like 5:30 to 5:45 I'll do this, 5:45 to 6. It's not like that. The very simple things that I can do in an hour and a half, hour or hour and a half, 90 minutes. And the extra time, if I have, I do it. I do. Definitely you'll have some extra time, you practice. So you set your goals like realistically every day. Don't put too much pressure on yourself, because I think this is a mental game, GMAT. This is more conceptually, you can get it easily. You can do great in your mocks and then go into the exam center and suffer, because it's all mental, psychological. It has to happen unconsciously, and you have to detach from the result and do it. Enjoy the process, I'd say. Don't make stress too much. Don't I don't know if you're you're person impatient, or person like me, then go slow, go. It's okay if you take some time. Just be consistent. 2.5 hours is doable, I'm sure. So that will be my only 2 cents on this. Yeah.
All right, all right, okay. So, let's talk about your first attempt a little. Yeah, you said that you used to kind of rush unnecessarily in the exam despite being on time, and it was causing kind of needless errors, And once you fixed it, it brought like a good increase in your accuracy. So, how did you kind of adopt that approach that ensure that you're not going to too slow, but not unnecessarily rushing either? Like I mentioned earlier, also, like how would you balance between, okay, am I going too slow or am I going too fast?
Yeah, you're right. That mocks will definitely help you in that, I believe. So my approach was uh, see, when I went too fast, what I understood that, especially in quants, this GMAT people, they put a trick at the end of the question, somewhere in between, where you don't see that when you read fast, and when you read fast, you don't see that. You miss out on it for sure. And it's generally a simple question. It's not such a big deal. You've solved that 100 times earlier, but they put a small trick, something like x is less than zero, and whatever, you miss that, and then you go. So again, you do what you did in verbal. I used to do that. I used to read the question. The first approach, first time in my attempt, what I did is I used to read very fast. Quants, I just used to skim fast and then just come and start solving. But this time, all I did was I took that extra pause, like maybe 5 6 seconds probably, and just broke down the question in quants and solved it. Like broke it down into parts and slowly reading the question. You give time to read the question. Don't hurry, even if it's a simple question, because the opportunity cost is high, because you get one wrong in quants and you're done. So that was my way of managing time. Again, practice will automatically get you this. So you
Mm-hmm.
practice reading the question. So I used to write down like my algorithm. So read the question, take this much time to read the question. I used to slowly break it down and read, and you actually save time by doing that. You don't have to revisit. So I used to do that. I didn't see the clock. I used to break down, read, and then at the end I always had time left. So the first time it was rushing through, second time it was breaking down and reading without bothering time about time. I don't, because I know I've practiced and I know that I can finish the exam. It's a faith, confidence. Yeah.
Mm, I get that. All right. Maybe, okay, let's talk about what are all the resources that you use. So if you could name all of the resources that you use for quants, for DI, for verbal, everything.
So apart from these courses like GMAT Review and the other course, GMAT Wiz and the other course, the only forum I used was GMAT Club, nothing else. So GMAT Club and GMAT Club questions. I'm sure everybody used that. So it's not something unique. And I didn't use any other resource apart from that. And as I told you, I'm impatient. I like to do 90% of the syllabus properly rather than trying to do 100%. So that was my, so I don't like to put more resources in my head. I used to
Mm-hmm.
keep it very simple. I used to trust my resource. Whatever resource I took, I used to trust that. And I used to trust it, and I like to finish it efficiently, like properly, uh, before jumping onto another resource. So I don't like to finish this in partially and then jump onto another resource. I don't think that's the right way to approach this exam. So you take time to choose your resource, one main
Mm-hmm.
resource, and once you've chosen it, you make sure you finish it properly before thinking about any other resource, because there is plenty of GMAT resources on the internet. So choose whatever resource it can be. Everything has almost 90% of the syllabus, so you can choose anything and you do it properly. So my resources were very simple. Apart from those courses, I just did GMAT practice questions, nothing else, absolutely nothing else. No, in fact, I was trying to, I was just, before this interview, I was thinking if I should improve my score even more. So I was just looking through the mocks, and I saw there were many mocks kind of. But I never knew this, because my mind didn't go there. My mind was like, finish this resource properly. So the first course that I enrolled, I exhausted all questions. The second course I took, I exhausted all questions, and then I did some practice OG questions from GMAT, and that's it. That's it. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so on the note of marks,
Yeah.
we know you gave only two, and we know the reasons why you gave only two. Um, let's talk about how you felt after you gave the mocks. What was it like for you? Were they timed, untimed, and what time of the day did you take it? Did you take it strategically, as like close to the slot that you had booked? How was it? How was the mock test
The
for you?
first mock, I think it spanned 3 days. I told you I can't sit for 2.5 hours. So it spanned at
Mm-hmm.
least 3 days that I remember, including a
Uh-huh.
weekend, I think. So for me, it was one day quant, and then maybe when I get the mood, I'll sit verbal, and then, so it was like that. It was not a problem. So please don't take me as an example. It's just not the way it has to be done. I'm not proud of it. It's very bad. I think you have to simulate the examination like as much as possible. So Pearson centers are good. Mine was center based. So those centers are very good, better than my place that I study. You felt like you studied there as well. So it's very clean, very nice, very cordial people there. Of course, they do a lot of checking on you and all that, which is, yeah, there. But mm, I'd say, yeah, you just go in and just give it your all. But I would advise you to the The right thing to do would be to practice your mock at the time of your examination, right? So if it's your afternoon slot, the best thing is to practice the mock in the afternoon, because the brain has that habit. So you excite the brain every day at the same time, it becomes a habit and it stays excited. It makes it a habit. So 10 days of exciting brain from 2 to 6 would, on the exam day you will be excited automatically in that time, because your brain knows it has work to do. So that will be the scientific and the right thing to do. Obviously the anxiety will help you, it will excite you anyways, but yeah. So but just mock, make sure you analyze your mock. So what I did is, first mock was 3 days, second mock was, I think, 2 days. The second mock, it spanned across 2 days, and that's also bad. Yeah. So that I don't know if I should be saying on the forum, but I came here to be absolutely genuine and honest.
Of
And
course.
so I thought
Yeah,
I should let you know. Yeah. So, but that
of
is
course.
not the right thing to do. The right thing would be to sit on the same time if possible, and and do it repeatedly, consistently, so that only then the brain will get used to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, we don't judge you at all. To each its
Yeah.
own, I think. We all have our own way of prepping things.
Yeah.
So that's completely fine. You mentioned analyzing your mocks carefully, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what was your strategy for mock analysis?
See, second mock, my analysis was done by the GMAT quiz team, because I
Okay.
delegated that to them. Basically,
Mm-hmm.
it was their idea to solve the mock live with them. So I solved the mock when they were live, like with me. So we did it on a Zoom call, and they saw how I was thinking and what I was doing, and the speed I traveled. So they gave me a complete analysis of what I was doing. And quant, I same thing. Quant, the mistake was, I got, I think, 82 in my mock just few days before the examination, and three questions I could have easily converted. Two questions, three questions, I could have easily got them right. I made them wrong, and they pointed out the obvious because I was reading the question too fast. So that they pointed out the obvious, and Piyush, who's also a part of the team, he told me that you're reading it too fast, so you slow down and you see the trick there. So my thing is, there's always a trick in the quant question, mostly. So you might think it's an easy question, but it's not. There's some trick there. So just watch out for it. Reading slowly you'll definitely watch. You'll get it. So read slowly. Don't go fast. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so finally, let's discuss your exam day,
Yeah.
the second one, the second attempt. Walk us through your whole experience. Of course, you already had an experience of giving the exam before, so you kind of had a strong hand at calming yourself down. You know that anxious situation was maybe a tad bit lower, or actually could be higher because you knew that it was your second attempt. But yeah, walk us through the day. What did you have in mind? The whole experience. Yeah.
So, so before I reached my exam center, there were many things that happened that put me off mind, like the auto coming late, or missing out that. So everything that could go wrong went wrong before the exam. The first attempt it went proper, like it was all perfectly planned, but the score was bad. Second attempt, everything that was planned was not going along the way. But the score was great. So you never know. So, and I'd also share this experience. So I think, yeah, first I solved verbal, and the questions were very hard. I thought, okay, this attempt is done. So I calmed down in the examination, because I thought that this attempt was done. I'm not going to get good marks. So the rest of the questions I did it very relaxed, like it doesn't matter. And I got this. That's how. To be very honest, this is how it went, because I thought, so that's when I realized the importance of nerves, in the examination. So for me, it was like, anyways, I think the first few questions were hard, so I gave up on the exam. But you should not do that. Even if you give up, if you have to give everything for the rest of the questions. So I thought, okay, it's done, but we'll try to do as good as possible. And I solved everything calmly. And again, when I saw the result blinks, I'm sure many of you know. So 695 was very surreal. I thought, okay, it took some time. Like even after the exam, after seeing the screen, this OCD kicks in. You say, no, I think I saw this. Maybe it was 655, 645. You don't know, but I'm not sure. I'd not even tell my parents. I was finding it hard to tell my mother. and my the GMAT was team as well, and they said no, it should be 695. Don't worry. Until the results came, I was not sure. So it was very surreal. I think the single most reason why I got that high score more than what I expected was because I stayed calm in the exam center. And that, although the reason why I stayed calm is wrong, but the message you have to take from here is that stay calm. Do anything that you can to stay calm. Do whatever you can. Some people meditation works for some yoga, something or the other. Just uh, find a way to handle your nerves better.
Mm-hmm.
It is individual. The ways, the tools are very individualistic. People have different techniques, so I cannot get, mine was different what happened to me. So
Mm-hmm.
so that would be my, that was my exam experience, and it was nice, after a long time getting something, examination, and said getting something good, you feel more confident about yourself. Yeah, but
Of course.
it's just 30% of the game. So after that only you realize that GMAT is just 30% and all that. Yeah.
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 Awesome. That I think that's a great journey you had, and a very inspiring one at that. Um, okay, so at the end of the session, I always ask people to give our audience their top three, you know, top three, tactical tricks. I mean, sorry, that would kind of change the game for them. So, what would be your three top tactical tricks?
Okay. Uh, First, definitely would be mindful reading, reading slow. Reading slow automatically calms your nerves. So that is one big, it's a
Mm-hmm.
huge technique. It will be the game changer. Conceptual gap, these are not techniques, these are prerequisites. You have to fill your concept. You should know what is English alphabets and all that. So that is like prerequisite. So the
Yeah.
first thing I'd say is reading slowly,
Mm-hmm.
and that will be one tactical trip. The main, like 80% would be reading slowly, because I suffered greatly because of that. And the second trick, I would not what trick, it's a cliche. I mean, everybody knows it. You have to practice for sure. You have to practice diligently, and I would say practice with timing. Not initially. When you're getting everything right, only then start timing yourself. In quant, in DI, in verbal, it doesn't matter, because this is a time game. GMAT is a time game. It's a pressure game. You have the clock running. So everything what matters is time. If the same questions are given you and you're given 2 more hours, you'll definitely get all of them right. But the whole point is, if you're able to finish that in those 45 minutes. So the crucial factor that distinguishes a good score and a bad score is time management. So I'd give second, practice with timing. First is mindful reading, slow reading, breaking down and reading it. You can tell yourself what you're reading again and again if you want to feel, as you can go as simple as possible. You can rephrase it in your mind or whatever. Second is time management. Practice with timing. And you don't have to practice for every question at the time. In GMAT Club, you have that option. You start and then you do and then you stop, and it gives you the time in GMAT Club. But other mocks as well, you can do 20 questions and see the average time you took. So that's how you should find time saving strategies. Third tip would be Third tip would be to just let go of the result. Don't worry about the result. If your process, this is what MS Dhoni also tells you, process may focus karo, process, yeah. So process is what matters. So focus on the process. See, if you've done the process right, you should feel confident in yourself, and you should tell yourself that, see, I've done my process right. Especially in the night before you go to sleep, you tell this to yourself 10 times at least. Like, I've got the process right. I did what all I could. I gave it my best. I don't care about the result, but I'll give it my best. So detach yourself from the result. So that is very important. I've done what I can. I've done the process. I've been honest to myself. I've done the right things, and I'll deserve a score according to you. And I don't care about the result. I just want my process to be right. So focus on the process. So these are my top three uh, tactical tricks. Or yeah, I
Awesome.
think.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing your tips. This
Yes.
was very insightful and motivating. Thank you for being here with us. for inspiring our audience, for sharing your journey with us.
Okay.
And to everyone who's watching, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us today. And we'll see you in the next one. We'll bring another inspiring story to you. Until then, yeah, I think that's about it. Bye bye, everyone. Thank you so much, Roshan, once again for being here with us today.
Thank you, Sejal. Thank you for doing this. Thank you.
Of course, no problem.
Yeah.